Hi, it's Mike with a little bit of post-Super Bowl commentary. I think a lot of people were probably surprised by the outcome of this Super Bowl when the Seattle Seahawks won against the Denver Broncos 43-8. I really don't think that it should be that surprising because of Super Bowl history. And when you think about what the Super Bowl has done and what teams have won throughout the history of that Super Bowl, it has been teams with the best defense that wins. And when you can think about even into the early 70s and the Miami Dolphins in the no-name defense, they had a dominating defense and a mediocre offense. Bob Greasy, Paul Warfield, Mercury Morris, Jim Kick, albeit good players, were definitely a sidelight to the no-name defense that team had, and they won championships, even an undefeated season. After that, the late 70s teams, when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Iron Curtain, it really didn't matter that you had Terry Bradshaw and Franco Harris as part of that team, and then they'd have some decent players on offense. It was the defense that dominated the day, dominated the season, and gave them the Super Bowl championships. When you think about some of the Super Bowls after that, the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos share the same, prestigious, non-prestigious moniker that when you come into the Super Bowl with a prolific offense and a bad defense, or at least a mediocre defense that has been kind of shadowed or kind of smoothed over by an awesome offense, a la the Patriots, at the end of the day, you're not going to find yourself with very many championships. When you think about that, John Elway lost how many championships? Jim Kelly lost how many championships? Thank you, Scott Norwood, for missing that field goal against the Giants. But when you think about it, defense wins championships. Case in point, the 85 Bears. The 85 Bears had the best defense in the league by far, and arguably the best defense in the history of the NFL. And they won the championship with Jim McMahon, quarterback. Jim McMahon, great guy, well, arguably great guy, won championship with the 85 Bears because of the defense. And that Super Bowl wasn't even close. And in fact, it was quite embarrassing for the Patriots. And when you think even beyond that, even in more recent terms, when you think about Trent Dilfer, seriously, won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why? Not because he was Trent Dilfer at all, because they were able to score just enough points for that over-dominating defense to take control of the game, which they did, and allowed them to win a Super Bowl. And in even more recent terms, when you think about the Baltimore Ravens, Joe Flacco, okay, he was a young and up-and-comer, and we all thought he was good, but it was Ray Lewis and that Baltimore defense that won the game. So when you think about it, defense wins. And when you think about this particular Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks definitely did have, even though it was kind of like out of the blue, it's kind of, they weren't like a great defense prior to this year. I mean, there was kind of an up-and-coming kind of thing where they'd been on the edge, but at the same time, they put up the numbers this year. They really did. And when you consider those facts, the takeaways and everything that they had done, they led the league in so many categories and led the NFC in defense. It really wasn't that surprising that they were able to dominate a 37-year-old quarterback who would put up huge numbers during the season, but at the same time had never faced a defense quite of this caliber. And so at the end of the day, albeit the final score, the differentiation between the 43-8 is quite a bit, 35 points, you would have thought that Denver would have been able to hold it within 7 touchdowns. I mean, seriously. So some of the intangibles in this game, like the run back from at the opening kickoff of the second half. I also thought it was an interesting decision by Pete Carroll to defer, even though they won the toss at the beginning of the game, to rely upon his defense. That should have been a big red flag for those Denver Bronco fans, as Pete Carroll has experience with the Patriots, USC, and has a lot of football experience. He knew what he had. And I'm not saying that I was partisan to the Seahawks. I wasn't partisan to the Broncos. I have a different team, the Dolphins, so I understand why that's, what tough things are like. But at the end of the day, defense wins. And that is going to continue to be true, not in just this particular year. It's shown true in the past, and it's going to show true in the future. So if you've got a favorite team, actually all you could really hope for is a dominating defense, even though you really have offense is what's exciting. But at the end of the day, defense wins. When you think about the San Francisco Giants in baseball and team sports in general, they won the World Series in 2012, 2010, based upon pitching's defense. With a mediocre batting lineup, they won the World Series anyway. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won under Trent Dilfer anyway. You think about Troy Aikman. Dallas Cowboys didn't do well until they had a good defense. When you think about it, it's just really when you go and consider all of the history of the NFL and the success the teams have had. We can talk about the numbers and the exciting things that the offenses have done. Did Dan Fouts win a Super Bowl? He's arguably the best quarterback that's ever played. Nobody's ever going to consider him that. They didn't even come close to a Super Bowl. Why? They had a matador defense, just like the Miami Dolphins did. Here he comes, here he comes. There he goes. It doesn't matter how good they are. What matters is the defense. Difference in this particular case is that you got 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense. That's 22 players you have to count on. So when you consider how great any one player could be, it just doesn't make a difference. Why? Because NFL is definitely a team game, especially when it comes to championships, and especially when it comes to defense. So at the end of the day, my message here is defense wins championships. It always has. It did yesterday, and it's going to tomorrow, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year. And that's what defense does. I would like to end with a particular snafu in the Super Bowl when Joe Namath came out to do the flip of the coin. By the way, hello, Joe. You're not playing. Okay, all right. I'm not even going to go there, but at least he was in the New York area. Okay, so he was in New Jersey, and they let him back on the field. I wasn't sure if he was still drunk or not, but at the same time, at least he didn't ask Susie Colbert for a kiss. Of course, they didn't have her down the field with him at any time, not that they would have. But how hard could it be to toss a coin and ask heads or tails? Joe, he forgot. Can you imagine? The complexity of that task was so basal. How do you get it wrong? Joe, lay off the whiskey. Oh, and by the way, did you have to kill a cow to make that coat? Oh my God, how many other animals have you killed throughout the years with all those fur coats you've worn? By the way, please show up sober. most of the teams, I'm sure, probably did. So, hey, follow suit, won't you? Talk to you soon, all. And by the way, congratulations to Seattle. You really needed it.